We are not even 24 hours into Biden's resignation from the United States presidential race, and we already have a very suspicious development. In this case, the signature of that letter he uploaded to X. And we cannot possibly know if it was indeed him who uploaded that letter to X. According to what we know, Biden told his team up until the night before that he was staying in the race. The very morning of July 21st, a Sunday, Biden's team still had the firm belief that he was staying in the race. That's what Biden had been saying in every interview up till the last minute. I have video analysis that are less than a week old in which Biden was adamantly confirming that he was not dropping out.
What's Joe Biden going to do? Is he going to stay in the race? Is he going to drop out? Here's my answer. I am running and we're going to win. I'm not going to change that.
Then suddenly he drops out via a letter posted to Twitter or X. And another thing that is quite suspicious is that it doesn't have a presidential letterhead. It was more, let's say, close to a writing on a napkin the words, "I quit, Fox." I mean, it's really strange that there's no speech, no ceremony, no nothing. It's quite anticlimactic. And in that letter, he says that later this week he is going to address the nation. I guess that it means that when he finds out that he resigned, maybe, just maybe then he will address the issue. But boy, he's going to be pissed. But to make things even more suspicious, he endorsed Kamala Harris 1 hour later, also on X. No signed napkin this time. Just a regular tweet with a lovely picture of better times. And I don't mean that the actual fact of endorsing Kamala Harris is suspicious. That is more like outrageous. But I mean that why didn't he just include that endorsement on the original dropout letter? That is one of the signs that makes things look also improvised. And that brings us back to the signature. Well, we got with the signature, the usual signature of Biden on top right here, and the signature of the dropout letter down below. Right out of the gate, you can see that there are visible differences. For example, the character spacing and the slant angle and the actual handwriting are different. And you don't need to be a specialist to spot the differences. But I'm going to go point by point. And why it doesn't look in any way like Joe Biden's usual signatures. I'm going to show you some other signature examples and you would see them framed in green because these are the real deal. And with the official seal in each case. Some of them are going to be more than 10 years old, but you're going to realize that in many of these instances, Joe Biden's signature has not changed. This one, for example, is from May 2, 2024. It's barely 2 months ago. It is pretty much the same as the one from June 2013. You can feel that they have the same style, even with a decade between them. We also have one from May 14th with very little change. So that's how we can confirm that the main characteristics of his signature haven't changed much. And we have other examples from personal letters and other communications. And I can understand that someone's signature can change depending on the occasion. Maybe you have an official signature. Maybe you have a signature for your checks or your shorter signature for other things. That's okay. That's something that we are used to. But even if you have a synthesized signature or a simpler signature that you use for certain documents, it is possible to track the way that you trace the letters so you can tell when signatures like this one are really suspicious. And I made sure to include a close-up video of Biden signing a document. And I want you to take notice. The first thing, one that is very important, is that the first stroke of that signature, which is the J, is a very strong downstroke. Such a strong downstroke followed, in this case, a short signature in which he only included the J and then wrote his last name, Biden. And how does he write the Biden? He first writes the downstroke stem of the capital B, so to speak, and then the rest of the B and the rest of the Biden is a single stroke. This is extremely important. So we have a strong downstroke for the J, and we have a single individual downstroke for the stem of the B, and then he completes the B and the rest of the Biden in a single stroke. He doesn't lift his pen from the paper. And as you can see, no matter what is example that we pick, even if we pick personal letters from the vice president from 2018, we have the same pattern. A powerful downstroke from the J, an individual stroke for the stem of the B, and the rest of the last name Biden is a single stroke. Now, what do we have in the resignation letter? The resignation letter has an extremely suspicious hesitation mark at the start of that powerful downstroke. It is odd because it's the first spot where the pen enters in contact with the paper. This one right here is the first moment that the pen enters in contact with the paper, so it should be quite strong. In fact, in every single example of Joe Biden's signatures, you see that that first downstroke is solid from beginning to end. But here you have a hesitation mark. It doesn't matter. Maybe he was in a rush. Maybe he was waiting for taking a nap or something, and he didn't have time, and he rushed that first downstroke. Now, in this case, he does something that is including an O and an E from Joe. But the way he does it in the dropout letter, it absolutely crushes the O, and it doesn't have any air inside. While in every other Joe Biden signature, you see that there's the correct shape of the O. It has the air inside the O. It has breathing. It is a single stroke for the O and the E, and okay, we have a single stroke for the O and the E, but the O is completely crushed in this so-called personal letter for the dropout. The next thing that is really suspicious is the way that he writes his last name. And that's why I told you to pay attention to the way he signed on that video. You saw that the B-I-D-E-N, they are all a continuous stroke, which doesn't happen here. You have, okay, the first downstroke of the stem of the B, and you have the B itself, but the B itself is separated from the I. You see it? There's no connection from the B to the I, which again only happens in this signature. It doesn't happen in any other signature of Joe Biden. Every other signature has that connection, but in the one from the dropout letter, it doesn't happen. That is suspicious. Which other signal do we have here? Well, the spacing between the letters is off. Joe Biden's signatures are much more compressed, and the spacing between the letters is smaller. And at the same time, this is way more slanted to the right than his usual signatures. So many things here that just doesn't fit, including that he did not dot the I, but I could give him a pass on that because in many examples, he sometimes dots the I, sometimes he doesn't. So maybe we can give him a pass on that. But perhaps the most baffling thing is that he underlined his signature, something that he literally, and I mean literally, doesn't do in any other instance ever. Why in the world would he feel the need to add that underline if he hasn't included it in any signature, at least in the past 10 years? Not to mention that the ending of the last name Biden has like an S or something, which absolutely he doesn't do anywhere. It's almost like it was the Bidens who signed the letter together. So what people are thinking is that someone else signed this letter for him while he was eating ice cream, maybe. And what we are witnessing with this document would be an effective digital coup. And then Joe will wake up from his nap, will realize this, and will throw a huge fit. Sources say that Jill was absolutely mad at all this and then has no other option but to go with it because, well, the puppet masters, that's what they have already decided. President Kamala, no less. But I would love to know what you think about this in the comments. Don't forget to download my 100 body language tips in the description of this video. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy. Much love and bliss.